Yes, now we are starting. Okay, welcome you guys. Today we are gonna talk about global businesses. Okay, actually this is very much important in nowadays businesses, doing your business in global terms, because they name our world, our globe as a global village. Global village that's all of the countries, all of the cultures are connected to each other. So it's very easy to transform knowledge, to transform news in between these countries. And also the international trade is very huge, right? Actually, most of the economies, most of the countries are living on these international economies, international imports and exports, and all of these businesses are making their money, making their wealth out of these global businesses. So this is why it's very important for us as well. And actually, as you all know, we have a department on international trade and business because of this. I mean, the management faculties are specializing on these kind of issues. It's so much important for preparing you to the real world, real business world. So why it is that much important? Why global business is so strategic for us, right? First of all, we can say that it's very basic logic of it. We can generate some additional sales, some additional money out of them, right? Because it's a limited uh, market in Turkey, in Ankara, for example. You produce something, but you have a limited number of customers in here. So if you can open up to the international business, international markets, you can sell more, you can earn more. And as you all know, it's a very important tool to show a company, show a country's development level. It's exporting. I mean, if a country is exporting more than they import, what I mean by that, if a country is selling more products outside of that country than the products they bought from other countries, it means that they are a developed country. They have the ability to sell their products internationally. So it's good for the companies, it's good for the societies, it's good for the country's economies, right? You need to sell additional markets, additional products, and generate additional revenues. And efficiency is one of the other terms. Operational efficiency means that um, think of you as an owner of a factory, okay? Let's say that you want to produce some products. Let's name it. You are producing some cars, okay? And for every car, let's say you are spending some amount of money, some amount of time, some amount of labor, right? But if you can decrease these amounts while you're producing something, while you try to producing something, it means that you can increase your efficiency. Let me give you an example. Let's say that for one car, you are spending, uh, let's say 3 days, okay, for one car, and you are spending $10,000 as a cost, and $10,000 as a cost, and 3 days, okay. So if you can decrease this amount, for example, if you can decrease the cost of the car to $5,000, and if you can make it more quicker, let's say in one day you can produce one car, or maybe in hours, in maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, one car. That means that you are doing it more efficient. Okay. So why it is related to global environment? Because when you move your facilities to other countries, you can gain some efficiencies. Why, for example, Toyota is operating in Adapazarı in Sakarya, Turkey? Why Renault is operating in Bursa? Why? What do you think? Let me ask you. These are actually one of them is French company, Renault, right? The other one, Toyota, I think is some Japan or South Korea or something like that. Is that company, but they are producing in Turkey. Why do you think they are doing that? Anyone want to comment on that? Hmm? Lower worker fees, yes. Lower costs because of Turkish value. Less salary, yes. You have 1 point. Okay, you catch the point that in Turkey the salaries are less, and in terms of the workers, it's more efficient for them, right? They can find, for example, if they build up their factory, Renault in France, their minimum, for example, wage could be for one worker is €1,000, right? €1,000 is equal to now, unfortunately, 10,000 Turkish liras. But in Turkey, you can find some worker much more cheaply, right? So it's one part of efficiency. Yes, right. Like the Apple in China. Yes, yes, Ali. So because Chinese workers are more cheaper than that. But there are some additional things also. For example, when they when they produce their cars in Bursa in Turkey, they can distribute their cars more efficiently. It's logistically better for them also. Because, for example, Turkey is a big market for them. The Renault brand is selling too much in Turkey, and they are also selling in too much in other Eastern European countries, right? So they base Turkey because of its logistics. Bursa is very close to the, as you know, Marmara Sea, and then they can transport their cars all over the Europe, all over the Middle East. So it's a good location for them as well. And this is also this could be also efficient for them as well, right? Because Turkey has a good transportation system, very developed transportation system, and they can carry out them. One of them is that. Another one, Turkey has a good infrastructure in terms of engineering. What I mean by that, Turkey has good engineers. They can find good engineers. Okay. So this lecture is we are recording, maybe. Yes, we are recording this lecture. So they can find also the talented workers in Turkey as well, because of there are good universities, good engineers, good management department graduates, right? They can find them. So when you put them all together, it's for Renault, for Toyota, it's a good thing for investing in Turkey. It is cheaper. Its geographical location is better. It's a developed country that you can reach anything that you want, right? And sometimes we can maybe reach some government support in terms of tax cuts, right? Maybe government could say that, okay, if you come here and open your factory in Turkey, I will not get some tax from you. And the tax rate in Turkey, 20%. But in France, this tax rate could be more, could be 40%, 50%, right? So there could be many of these kind of factors that affect the decision. But generally, if you take it globally, it gives you an operational efficiency. Okay, it could be cheaper, it could be more quality, it could be location based, but it gives you some efficiency. What else? Expose businesses to new technology. Especially this is true for some. There are some technological zones. Okay, technology zones, like the Silicon Valley in United States, right? And also there are some similar spaces in Turkey as well, right? Industrial zones, for example. In that industrial zones, some sectors are supported. Okay, some sectors are given more importance, more government funds, and some companies are coming together there. I mean, for example, you want to study, you want to work on a new technology, let's say 3D printing. Okay, maybe you have heard this 3D printing technology. It's a very new technology. You just draw the 3D material on the computer, and there is a machine. You can print out that 3D. I mean, any kind of thing, and they can even produce some human body materials. For example, they can produce livers with living tissues, right? So these kind of things are very high technology, but they do not exist in everywhere of the world. For example, if you want to open up a company on that 3D printing issue, maybe you should try United Kingdom, you should try Netherlands, you should try United States. Maybe you may think that I want to be there with other firms to have an advantage, okay? Because they are together, they can reach some resources better, okay? So this kind of stuff could be an attractive reason for making your business global. And also increased consumer selection. Your reason could be, I want to sell my product more and I want to reach more customers. Just that. I mean, you don't want to produce in any country, in another country, but you just want to sell your products. Think of you as you own the Starbucks company. Okay, so when they first opened their stores in the United States, okay, they think that maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they think that they need to go global. Okay, and they try to reach some new customers, right? Because a coffee store, is a limited number of people they can reach, right? Let's say they are operating in a region, but the number of their customers is limited. It could not be double every year, right? Because the neighborhood is limited number of things. But they want to sell their products more, so they open up to new countries like Europe, like Turkey, like Africa, Asia, right? So they open up their products in there. Yes, their products are produced in Netherlands, but they first are, as far as I know, they first are founded in United States, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but doesn't matter. Anyway, so you want to sell your products, you need to go to a new country. However, when you think that if an average American customer is the same with an average Turkish customer, right? So there need to be some updates in their operations, updates in their products, right? They cannot sell their product as they are selling in United States. They can do it or they can't do it. Which one, right? How can we decide that? I mean, you can think that, for example, McDonald's, right, is all over the world, and they are actually selling a standardized product in all over the world, right? A hamburger is very standard. You can find anywhere, and it tastes somehow similar in all over the world. So in some sectors you can do that, but in some you cannot do that, right? In some you need to make some arrangements. For example, McDonald's products they are selling some how can I say it? Some products including some material that Muslims cannot eat, right? They call it haram, a pig, for example, but bacon. I mean, they are selling their products with bacons in the United States and in Europe, in other cultures, but in Muslim countries, they actually did not put that bacons in their menus, right? Why they are doing that? Because in that culture, there are some belief systems, there are some values. So they need to respect that, right? They need to, if they want to be successful, they need to respect that. If, for example, in Turkey, if in any McDonald's restaurant, if they sell some bacon product, right, no one will go there anymore because they will react to that, right? But however, in France, in Germany, in China, it's no problem. They can sell the product because there are customs, there are cultures, there are beliefs, there are religions, right? So, as you see, there could be many motives for going global in businesses, and today we are going to discuss them. But as I mentioned a little bit, there are differences in some values, okay, when you go global in different countries. There are differences in habits, in attitudes, in manners, in ethical standards, right? We are not the same. There are religions, there are ideologies, there are some habits, eating habits, right? For example, or if you're a restaurant, drinking habits. I mean, you may want to insist on your own business model and change the habits in the country that you go. You may do that. For example, unless Starbucks has come to Turkey, we don't have a habit to drink maybe that much coffee, right? Instant coffee that they call it, and just go there, take a cup of coffee, and just go to your continue on your job, right? I mean, but they actually make us gain that habit. I mean, they change the market. They bring something new, and people accepted that, right? But in some cases, it's not that easy. In some cases, they need to produce specific to that country, specific to that culture, that fits that culture. Today we are going to see that, okay? So, what's if you want to go global, if you want to do business in another culture, what do you need to learn? First of all, you need to learn their history, okay? Then you need to know their religion, the politics, and their customs. Actually, most of the companies are doing that, right? I mean, they change their brand names, they change their packagings, they change their advertisements. For example, when Ramazan came in Turkey, you can see advertisements on Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola makes big Ramazan tables, just plastic tables, and they introduce their product as a tool, as a drink that brings the family together in this holy times, right? So they are using that kind of advertisement specific to that culture. I mean, they do not make this kind of advertisement in Europe, right? Why do you want to request a control? Hmm? Okay. So Abbas asked something, why we should learn about the country's politics. Actually, this is very important because if you are investing in huge amounts of money, that if and in that country there are some rules, there are some legislations, there are some laws, right? Maybe different from your original country. You need to learn about them. And these politics sometimes are so important that you may, for example, retrain from your investments. Now, think of you, um, you are an English company, UK company, okay, and you want to make an investment in Saudi Arabia. You are a oil company, let's say, and you want to make an investment in Saudi Arabia. But as you all know, there is a huge bad thing happened on Cemal Khashoggi, right? Did you remember that? The journalist who is killed in the Saudi Arabia's embassy, right? You remember that? Yes. So what happened afterwards? You remember many of the European companies are saying that okay, we just stopped our investments in Saudi Arabia. So why they are doing that? It's because of politics, right? I mean, it's not about any customs, any values, anything else. Maybe they will lose, they will earn lots of money. Maybe they are giving out many profits, right? They are leaving out them, but they're saying that because of you did that and you did not punish the ones who killed Cemal Khashoggi, a journalist. So I don't want to invest you anymore. So it's a politics, right? So maybe you also heard about that. There are some boycotts, right? You hear about it. I don't want to go into details on the politics, not a politics course. But for example, some companies, some Muslim countries saying that we don't want to buy French products because they are insulting our Prophet Muhammad, right? So we are boycotting them. But look, it's a political thing, okay? So these kind of things, politics, are also matter in businesses, and maybe sometimes they are mattering so much, okay? Sometimes. Okay. What else? Customs, history, religion. Yes. What's a culture? Okay. It's defined as the sum of total beliefs, rules, techniques, institutions, artifacts that characterize a human population. Okay. And they consist of the learned patterns of behavior common to the members of a given society, the unique lifestyle of a particular group of people. I mean, actually, culture is not a solid thing. It's not a seen thing, right? I mean, you cannot hold it. You cannot measure it. It's hard. It's the relation between people. But when you go to, if you go abroad, there are some international students here in our lecture. I want to ask them. So, what do you think is specific to Turkish culture, for example? What do you think is very different for you when you first come to Turkey, right? From your culture. What do you think? Do you want to talk about this or give us some example about the cultural difference between Turkish culture and your original culture? If you want to comment, I will be very happy. Is it similar to your country? for example, or is it very different from your country? Can you give us an example, Abbas, for example? Ayşe, make a comparison with Germany, right? We are very warm people, comparison to Germany, humble, okay? Mohammed, where are you from? You say kind of the same. Wearing longi, friendly. Is there an example that you are shocked with that culture? I mean, this is very different in our culture, and it's just weird for me, for example. Mohammed from Libya. Okay. Habib, do you want to talk?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, according to culture, I can say something about
Yes.
longi. For example, when I came first year in Turkey, at that time I wear longi and I went outside. At that time, people are surprised. And when they are going from here to here, some people are looking me from the car after stopping their car.
Because of your clothes, huh?
Yeah, because of my longi. I wear longi. Longi is actually a specific for our region.
Where are you from, Habib?
I am from Bangladesh, sir.
Bangladesh. Ah, okay. But you have very
Yes,
beautiful clothes. I mean, colorful,
yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's very catching some
Thank you,
attention.
sir.
So yes, yes, it's really take attention, right? I mean, when you go to that, it's very normal in your country, but when you come here, people just looking at you. Okay, what is that? What this guy is
Yes,
doing?
sir. Yes, sir.
So yes, I mean, you can even realize that there are some different living standards, right? I mean, you cannot see it as a solid thing outside there, but it's inside the society, right? So we need to also consider these differences, okay? That slide, you can see that these all actually components of culture. These are establishing the culture, aesthetics, attitudes and beliefs, religion, right? I mean, Islam and Christianity, like let's say Islam and Buddhism or other religions, right? Material culture, education levels, language speaking, right? Societal organizations, I mean, legal characteristics, political structures. I mean, these are all actually have an impact on the culture of that country, right? And I want to talk about in an interesting study, which is very important in business studies, and you will hear it a lot. A Dutch scholar who is called Hofstede, he made a study maybe 50 years ago. He started that study, but we are still using this study to compare cultures in terms of their cultural differences, okay? In terms of the organizational perspective also, and the societal perspective, psychological perspective as well. So Hofstede named actually 3 cultural dimensions, okay? And he scaled them among comparing the different cultures. First of all is power distance, okay? So power distance means that the level of bureaucracy in a culture, okay? For example, in Eastern cultures, in Turkey or in Asian cultures, the power distance more high, right? We like to have bosses. We like to have patronize others. Okay, so but in some European countries, in Western countries, the power distance is very low. I mean, even for example, in Turkey, maybe you realize that you need to call your as professor, dear professor, Mr. Professor, and it's very important that the titles, right? Titles are given much important. But when you go to, for example, in a Western European country, you can call the professor with his name. Okay, John, can you look at me, for example? But maybe he's the rector or he's the dean or something, right? But he don't want to be called as professor, dear professor, rector, dear dean. He just said, okay, call me John, call me Jack, call me Mary. So it's kind of a different cultural thing. But in Turkey, for example, if you just sometimes forget to write, for example, dear professor, or you just don't miss to say that, maybe they can react to you, right? Okay, please, I'm a professor, you need to call me a professor, or you need to call me Mr. President or something like that. So these kind of things actually called as power distance, right? Collectivism, individualism, another one. We will see them one by one, but very closely. Let me summarize in that graphic and then move on. A collectivist culture wants to live together, okay? Collectively. People are interdependent to each other. People give value to their families, to their clans, to their tribes, to their societal groups, right? But individualist countries, they think individually. I mean, they are more into their freedoms. They are more living alone, right? Uncertainty avoidance means that whether a person, a society is comfortable with uncertainties, comfortable with risks, taking risks, or uncomfortable with taking risks, right? So femininity, masculinity, sometimes nurture is become more important, sometimes power is more important in some countries, right? Or short-term, long-term orientation. I mean, some people may want that they need to get some results in very short terms. But in some countries, they make plans for very long terms. They make educational strategies. Let's see, for example, you can see that in Turkey, our educational strategy changes very rapidly. Every maybe 2 years, 3 years, our educational strategy has been changed, has been renewed. But in some countries, maybe you can see in Europe or Japan, they have a plan for 50 years, okay? They have a long-term orientation. And restraint and indulgence. So let's look at the differences of them. For example, power distance, we talk about this. Let me give you some examples. Countries like Russia, China, Arabian countries, its power distance is high. But some countries, United States, Netherlands, Germany, Britain, Denmark, it is low, okay? These are the index scores of Hofstede's model. So in collective cultures, individuals are supposed to look after each other. I mean, they need to support each other. They need to live in families, in tribes, in clans, right? In our societal groups. But individual countries, people look after themselves. Everyone just for themselves. So it's the typical characteristic of United States of America, right? Everyone care about themselves. No one care about the others. There are rules. I mean, for example, so you can see many homeless people there on the streets, and even their families do not look them after. Okay, they say that you are the responsible of this situation. I don't want to help you. But in Turkey, I mean, for example, we are welcoming many people who are in need, many people who are who don't have nothing, but we are collectively help each other, right? So this is differences between cultures. So there is a scale. I mean, you can see some countries their scores on individualistic and collectivist scale. So when the number goes up, it means it's very collectivist culture. When the number goes down, it is very individualistic culture. Uncertainty avoidance is another thing, which actually sign of entrepreneurship as well. Okay, for example, if you want to go start up a new company, I mean, can you do that? Can you take that risk, right? Do you like the uncertainties, or do you want a job that is secure for you, that is secure for your life? Okay, I don't want to be rich, but I don't want to be in need either. So it's okay for me to have a regular wage, right? I don't want to go on risk. So as you see in the in that map, some countries are uncertainty tolerant. For example, you can see United States here. It's more tolerant because it's the entrepreneurial society, right? Everyone tries to open up their companies. Everyone tries to risk their money to earn more. But when you come to see Turkey, it's more uncertainty avoided country. I mean, many of our parents say that, for example, okay, find a job that secure your future, right? For example, they say that find a job in the government companies, just be a memur. Maybe our Turkish students are very familiar with that suggestion from their families. Just take a position in a government company, so your future will be guaranteed, right? Because there are too many risks. You can lose your job. You can lose your own entrepreneur real thing. But if you have a job, secure job, that's better, right? So this is about cultural thing, uncertainty avoidance. Masculinity and femininity means that actually it's not a genderist something. It's not a sexist thing, but the preference for example, the masculine cultures are said to be more assertive, more achievement oriented, more heroic. Okay, I mean you can see here, for example, in United States also it's in between, but they like heroes, right? American heroes, very generally a male character, right? Hero saving the world. I mean, think about the Marvel characters, right? Superman, Batman, any Captain America, this kind of old characters. So generally masculine, right? Hero, I mean, going there and stopping some and turning them into goodness. This kind of stuff. So they think also they give more value to material reward for success. But in feminine countries, modesty is more important. Caring for the weak and the quality of life is more important. You can see it especially in northern European countries, right? In Denmark, in socialist countries, they care for the society more. Cooperation rather than competition, right? For example, masculine countries are more competitive based. I mean, people compete with each other, right? But in feminine ones, people are more want to cooperate, working together to reach something, this kind of stuff. And another one, long-termism, short-termism. Yes, BUS107 Iron Man. It's another one. Yes. So, what do you think you are? I mean, are you a long-termist or short-termist, right? This is a societal comparison, but you can think as well you as well, right? For example, short-termist people are generally traders, buying something and selling it, right? And they want to focus on the short-term profits, making just a profit and then get out of that job, for example. But long-termism means they have a discourse of investment, okay? They think 10 years later, they think 20 years later. They want sustainable businesses, sustainable operations. But in short term, you look at the competitive aspect of it. I mean, how can you be more successful rather than long-term sustainability? Long-termism is regarded as the preferred approach to businesses. Okay, short-termism is a defect, regarded as a defect to be avoided, because generally it gives you losses. Short-termism. It's kind of an opportunism, right? I mean, just selling something and getting out of the money, but which is not sustainable, which is more risky. So a long-termism is more sensitive to the social and environmental concerns. A short-termism is more sensitive to quarterly economic growth. For example, there is a Paris Agreement on protecting our globe from environmental disasters, okay? And many of the countries actually signed this. They need to reduce their carbon emissions, which are the result of the factories' operations, okay? When factories are using coals, when they are using fuel oils to produce energy, they are actually polluting the air, okay, which is very harmful. But and in Paris in 1960s or 1970s, I don't remember the exact date, there is an agreement signed by many countries to reduce these risks, okay? They say that, okay, we don't want to use more coals in our factories. We need to limit that carbon emissions. And many of the countries, especially in Europe, have signed this paper, signed the agreement, and they change, they innovate, they restructure their factories accordingly. But companies like India, countries like India or United States now, Trump, for example, says that I don't believe in global warming, he says, as it's a belief system or as it's a religious thing. He said, I don't believe in that. It's a mess because I want to make money. I mean, I just need jobs, right? I don't want to close down my factories. I just don't want to lose jobs, he said, and I don't care it. I just increase the carbon emissions. India is also, they are saying, India government says that many of my people, they don't reach electricity even today. for example, they are saying. Many of the Indian people, they don't have access to electricity. They don't have access any electricity power. So I need to take this electricity to them, they say. So I don't care about this carbon emissions. So I'm looking at my economic growth. Okay, in the short term, in this year, our GDP has increased 10%. This matters for me. I don't care about 30 years later how world become. Okay, whether it's bad, whether it's good, I don't care about this. But long-termist countries like European countries, like Turkey, is also signed this agreement. They say that, okay, in the short term, using these fuel oils, using these coals could be beneficial for the economy, but they will create more damage in the future. Okay, term. If we damage the atmosphere, if we damage our land, if we damage our seas, maybe in 30 years, in the 50 years, we may not find the necessary natural resources in the world because of the overconsumption, because of the pollution. So can you understand that the different perspective from long-termism and short-termism here? And another one, indulgence and restraining. Indulgence means that some companies, a culture that allows a free gratification of basic and natural human drives, related to enjoying life and having fun. But restraint means that societies just suppresses these needs. Okay, they just striking some social norms. I mean, you can see that. I mean, some countries, some societies are more protective, right? They want to protect some beliefs, their values. But some cultures are just against this kind of restraints. This is another indicator of SEDEM mentioned, right? So you can see here there are some comparison in between them. I just want to show you guys something. Let me arrange this. Hope to see this. Can you see it now? HofsedaInsights.com, a graphic, right? So here you can see that it's the HofsedaInsights.com, the original website of Hofseda Foundation or something like that. And they are here. You can read more about if you want to learn about more of this cultural comparison. And you can here compare some countries. Okay. For example, I just select some companies here: Turkey, South Korea, Germany, and United States, and you can here see their scores on that. For example, in power distance, in Germany's power distance very comparatively low, right? And Turkey is the green one. Power distance is very much very similar to South Korea, because we are collectivist cultures, right? And we like bureaucracy. So power distance is somehow moderate in our countries. And when you move to individualism, for example, Germany is an individualistic country, and the United States is the most, maybe the most individualistic country, United States. But Turkey is here a little bit low, more collectivist. South Korea is even more than us. There are many very collectivist country. Masculinity in Turkey it's lower than, for example, Germany and United States. I don't know, maybe you need to, for example, you can here read about the, for example, details, okay, why they are, how they are coming up with that numbers. But actually, it gives us, for example, long-term orientation. In South Korea is 100, right? In Turkey it's 46. So we are not actually caring about long-term. We just short-termist countries. In the United States, short-termism is more evident because they just want to make profits. They just, as a capitalist country, everyone wants to learn that day and they work for it, right? But when you see Germany or South Korea, they have a more orientation on the long term. So you can actually name here any country that you want. Let's say Bangladesh, for example, right? You can see the blue one is Bangladesh. I mean, you can try it. Okay, you can compare the countries. It's a good tool. Okay, let's go back to our so as we see all of these details, guys, what we need to do, right? We need to be alert to the customs. We need to respect the customs. We need to deal with the individual differences there. Clarify our intent and meaning. Adapt our style to the other persons and show some respect to them, right? Because sometimes they may misunderstand you, and if you misrepresent yourself, you may lose lots of money in there, right? I mean, if you, for example, be disrespectful to a customer of, let's say, you want to invest in Bangladesh and you don't know their customs, and one of your products names or your advertisement is a disrespect for them, right? So it's a very bad thing for you. And you need to also know the needs of the people there, what they need, right? What they actually want, right? And you need to show the respect of their conditions. For example, if you are sometimes you don't need to go global. Sometimes in your company there are many intercultural people working, right? In, for example, many European countries, there are many people who have different backgrounds. In United Kingdom, there are many Indian people, there are many Pakistani people, or Greek people, or African people, right? Many other cultures coming together. So the business owners should have a respect to them, respect to their beliefs, respect to their customs, right? Yes. Actually, we have some time, so I can maybe mention about them. We will continue this topic in the next week, but today I will just talk about maybe the first three: importing, exporting, licensing, and franchising. So what's an import? What's an export? Actually, it's very easy, but sometimes we may just mix them. Import, buying some goods or services from another country. Export, selling goods and services to another country. Which one is more desirable for a country? Actually, exporting. If you export more than you import, it means that you are a good company, you earn money, right? I mean, you can bring some value that is out of your country and into your country. It's a very good thing. What about Turkey, right? Actually, the products we export, textile, we are very good in textile. And after China, I think Turkey is the number 2 in most of the world. Most of the world's textile products are actually produced in Turkey. Motorized land vehicles, as I give the example to you, Renault, Toyota, Hyundai, and many other big brands are operating in Turkey. We are very good at them, and many of the vehicles parts are actually produced in Turkey as well. Some metal industry and raw fruit and vegetable, we are good at them. And main products that we import are actually the most important one is energy, because we don't have any energy resources, natural energy resources, so we import them more. Some steel, iron, cereals, these are most things that we import. So let's see that. What are the different forms of going international? One is licenses. Okay, you give some licenses. It's a global strategy in which a firm, the licensor, allows a foreign company, the licensee they call it, to produce its products in an exchange for a fee. This fee is called as royalty. Okay, you make a payment for them. This is we call a royalty. What are some examples of the licenses? I mean, actually, it's for example, when you go to buy some products, sometimes you see that clothes, that cups, that anything, there are some brands on them. Like, for example, for children, there are many like cartoon characters right there. Or if you are a fan of a team like Beşiktaş, Galatasaray, Fenerbahçe, there are some licensed products. So how they are doing that? Actually, they are giving permission to that producer to put their logos, to put their products logos on their productions and sell it. Okay, and they are in exchange of it, they are paying you another money, some kind of royalty, some kind of money out of that, right? It's a very common form of making some businesses. This is what we call a license. Apart from them, for some know-how and for some innovative products, like if you want to sell the recipe of a pharmaceutical tool, for example, a pharmaceutical company sell their products, sell their licenses, and let you to produce that product, okay? Right, and you are producing that product and selling that, and sometimes you need to give a huge amount of money, right, to just take that know-how from them, just take that recipe from them, right? This is what we call licensing. And what kind of advantages that we have in licensing? We can gain additional revenues from a product. Normally, we are not producing it domestically in our factories. That we don't produce that. We just give the permission. We just give the recipe to another country in another company in another country. So we are having some additional revenue, which is very good. A company can gain from the sale of the startup supplies, component materials, and consulting services from the licensing firm, right? So it's good. It's good for us, additional revenue. And the licensor spends little or no money to produce that product. For example, think about, especially little children love some cartoon characters like SpongeBob, like Pepe, right? These kind of things. And when you go to a market, you see that there are some toys, there are some products which have some logos of it or some cartoon character at the top of it. And so actually they are not producing that. Some other company are producing that. They don't invest anything to that. They just take the permission from you to produce that products and give you some money, right? So you are not actually spending anything, but earning a lot. It's a good thing, licensing your product. But there are some problems as well. What kind of problems can occur? Generally, a firm must grant these licensing rights to its products for an extended period. I mean, for example, you have found a recipe for a pill that is good for coronavirus, okay, which actually cure the people. So you need to take the license before others, okay? Because if you cannot take this license under guarantee for a time period, some other company or some others can do it, okay? So it's a risk, and sometimes some licensings have a limited period. For example, they have 10 years, 20 years of limitations in pharmaceutical companies. After 20 years, it becomes a common good. For example, the recipe of aspirin, recipe of Novalgin. These kind of products are now free for everyone. Any company can produce a similar product because the period is extended. This is why these pills are very cheap and very common in the market. Okay, so sometimes there are issues about the licensing rights. There are issues about the copies. For example, you give the recipe to the company and they just steal the information from you, sell it to another one. How can you just control that? There are some legal issues in that, and it occurs a lot. I mean, how do you protect your license? How do you protect your intellectual property rights, for example, right? So if a product experiences remarkable growth in the foreign market, the bulk of the revenue goes to the licensing. Let's say that you don't want to invest to, let's say in Pakistan, a Turkish company, you have give a list license to a Pakistani company to produce your products, okay? And you make an agreement with them for 5% royalty fee, only 5%. But after you see that this Pakistani company has making huge revenues, it's very success. It will be a success in the Pakistani market, and let's say they are selling more product that you sell in Turkey, but you just limited your revenue with 5%, and you may think that I would want to do it by myself, right? Because if I directly invest in Pakistan myself, maybe I will have 30%, 40% more revenues out of that. So the one who took the license from me gained more than me, right? It could be one disadvantage. And another risk, if the foreign licensor learns the technology, it may break the agreement and being produce the similar product on its own. Just change a little bit that product, okay? Change the style, change the some specialties, add some specialties, and he produces, and he just move you out of his way, right? It's also a risk for licensing products. Another one is we call it a franchise, okay? Actually, this is actually they can mix to each other. What's a franchise? What is a license? Okay. However, in franchises, generally the company also gives its business model too. Okay, it gives the business model too. What do I mean by that? The business sells some products, some services, but also it gives you it gives the other company the opportunity to use the very same business model, the very same brand name, the very same style, design. Okay, so you can see McDonald's, you can see Domino's Pizza, you can see Starbucks in all over the world. They are actually similar to each other, right? So these are franchises. It's a form of licensing, but somehow different than it. You can see the examples of franchises here. These companies actually selling their business model as well. For example, if you want to open up a Burger King, if you can make an agreement with them, I mean, they are also selling you, giving you the recipe of a hamburger, right? So this is a franchise, guys. What are the difference between franchise and licensing? In licensing, licensor sell the intellectual property rights local company for a royalty fee. In franchising, it original company, the franchisor, to permit the franchisee, the local company, to use its business model and brand for a specific fee, like an independent branch, right? I mean, this is something else. In licensing, there is a contract, and it's about more intellectual property rights. In franchising, there are some international law to protect that franchise as well. In licensor may entail some control on intellectual property, but have no control in particular in business operations. I mean, when you give the license to other product, I mean, you don't control how they produce that product. For example, you are Beşiktaş, you just let some company to produce some cups and sell it. And you don't intervene how do you produce that cup, what is the quality of that cup, right? But in franchising, for example, McDonald's can intervene you. Let's say that the original colors of McDonald's is red and yellow, right? And you just want to say that, okay, I want to change them to black and white because I'm a Beşiktaş fan. Can you do that? No, you cannot do that, right? The franchisor controls that because the global brand and it controls every business operation of you. Let's say that I want to add some doner in my menu in McDonald's. Can you do that? No, you cannot do that. The menu is also limited, right? The franchisor have a control on you. Made that, Muhammad Ali. Maybe if they have an arrangement with that, maybe they have a licensing. Yes, actually Burger King made some advertisements, right? Support your team. Actually, it's kind of a licensing agreement. If you want any questions or if you want to ask, you can talk. Yes. So in licensing, it's a single time transfer of specific property, right? And then the other one is using that. In franchising, it's a consistent ongoing process. The franchisor always monitor them. Always, for example, they are reporting to the original company. How do they do that? For example, if they want to change something, they need to ask permission, right? Territorial monopoly. This in licensing there is nothing like a monopoly in there because you share some of your knowledge with other companies. But in franchising, it's like kind of a monopoly in the sector, right? One company decide the structure, design, everything there. Okay, let's stop there. We talk about licensing and franchising before moving to other forms of international businesses. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, I am stopped recording then.